Mythic! Mythic with a 4 rare deck. Let's go. Yeah! Smashing. Let's go. Hey, it's Mythic Mike. I'm going to show you how to make your own Mythic deck today. For those that do not know me, I make unique decks, often aggro decks, and then we climb to Mythic with them. And just playing my decks, I stick around the numbers Mythic even at the end of the season so we don't fall off. And I'm often making unique decks once a day. We're going to show you how to do it. And I'm going to play the deck I make today on the next video to see how it does. Let's get into it. All right, I'm going to put the steps up here, but the first one is pick a theme or synergy you want to break. This could be something like, hey, I want to make a skeletons deck, or hey, I really like this combo, and we're going to break it. Today, what I'm going to do in my first theme that I'm thinking about is humans, specifically a budget humans, because I've realized there's some sick no rares humans, and I do make a lot of budget decks. Specifically, I've realized there are 3 different 2/1 humans that are uncommon. So that's 12 2/1 humans for 1 mana. And there's also a 2-drop kind of human lord that's uncommon, which is a 2/2, which gives all your other humans +1/+0 in Ward 1. So then you play a bunch of your 1-drop 2/1 humans, you play the lord, and then all of a sudden your humans all are 3 ones that were for 1 mana. I know there's power creep, but my God, that has to be something, and we're going to put them in right now, the ones I'm talking about. We are going to go no rares humans. We're going to set our common, uncommon, and then the ones I'm talking about are, where's the lord? These ones. So you can see 2/1 2/1 2/1, and then this one, oh, I'm going to move my face. This one's kind of a human lord, all uncommon. I mean, it has to be something. That's going to be our base. We're going to go from there. The next step is 10 to 12 payoffs. What are payoffs? Payoffs are cards that reward you for your synergy. So if we're going for a lot of low to the ground, cheap humans, our payoffs will make them better or in some way benefit from low to the ground cheap humans. Skeletons, it's something that, if you were playing skeletons, it would be something that buffs your skeletons or in some way benefits from playing those skeletons. Here, obviously, Coppercoat is the payoff. I kind of call these trigger cards, right? You want a bunch of low to the ground trigger cards in this shell. And then we have 4 payoffs because these give all our humans +1/+0 and pay us off for having humans. So I'm going to go through, I've got some thoughts for other payoffs. The ones I was thinking about were Immodanes is a payoff because it gives all our creatures +1/+0 and haste when it enters. So similarly, it buffs all our low to the ground creatures. And we also have, oh, my face. This kind of new uncommon door, which for 2 mana puts something down that gives all attacking creatures +1/+0. And then for 3 mana, you can draw some cards. So very, very interesting. That's already 12 payoffs. Again, we only need 10 to 12. Now, some other thoughts. There could be some other cards that buff, like the case, right? So like the case could obviously be a payoff worth considering, right? It kills something and then buffs our creatures. I'm going to start with these, and then we are going to get into removal. You need removal now. People love to quote back to me. I used to say removal was terrible. This is before, this is 8 months ago, before Slick Shot. Fling was a deck where they play 1 creature and put 3 combat tricks on it and beat you at instant speed in 1 turn. Or now with Red Leyline, it is even crazier. Obviously, the counter to those decks is removal. And against Red Leyline, you really do need some exile or really low, like 1-drop removal, or else Red Leyline will take over. Obviously, before that, people were playing Go Wide and people were playing mid-range decks. And if you killed something that made 2 creatures and you killed one of them with the 2-drop removal, you were behind. No longer the case. You need either 8 instant speed removal at least, or 6 instant speed removal and 4 sorcery removal. And that's just a starting point. So here, the removal I'm thinking of, I already kind of have the ones I'm at least considering in mind. Again, 1-drop removal is very nice cases kind of removal if we keep it in. And then the other ones are Elsmith Smite, exile, 3 damage to attacking or blocking creature, 2 damage to their face or to kill something small, right? And this one, 2 damage, but you can also exile their stuff. So these are obviously really good against mono red because exiling their stuff messes up their death triggers, including, they have combat tricks that when their creature dies makes 2/2s, which is a little bit absurd. Now, there are some other removal we could consider, but again, I really want low drop. Also one that I'm just, like I said, you can play some sorcery removal as needed. One that I definitely think is just busted is this ghost thing. It's not instant speed, but it kills any non-land permanent, including their ley line, and it gives your creature +1/+0, lifelink, and ward 2, so then you can win some races. So that's 12 instant speed and 4 sorcery. We're way over what we said, and we are going to narrow that down. This is just what I'm thinking about. All right, now we're just going to fill out our deck. Let's see if there's any other cards. Obviously, you can go through all the cards. I already have some thoughts. This is interesting because we are playing some enchantments, so this gets buffed with enchantments. I don't think this goes in this deck. We're not playing the Convoke guy. He's rare. Flash, low to the ground. This is more triggers for our payoffs, right? Because we want low to the ground humans that we can buff. I'm only looking at 1 and 2 drops realistically. This one's reasonable, but I don't think so. We don't have really enough spells for this, I don't think. All right, we're going to leave it at that for now. Time to evaluate against aggro and against control, ramp, reanimate, a game, pretty much a deck that wins early as an aggro, which we're thinking mono red fling or Boros fling or something like that these days, and a deck that wins late. So it could be like blue white control, it could be reanimate, it could be ramp, it could be any of those strategies. And we want to see how we're doing. And then we also want to consider mid-range, right? Mid-range is more like people playing Sheldred and Golgari things and kind of dinking around but getting value. I'd say you want to focus on the control though and aggro a little more. And you don't need to beat both of them. If you beat aggro 80%, but you beat control ramp, or if you lose to them 55%, so you're even slightly negative, when you combine those two, especially since in the best one ladder there's a bunch of aggro, you're going to have a winning win rate. And if you can, go 60% against both, that'll also give you a winning win rate. So that's something to consider. Against aggro, we do have, like I said, we've already kind of targeted them, and that's the great thing. Just playing some low to the ground removal and some lifelink will do it. We obviously are going to have to cut that, but I think we're kind of, we have answers, right? We'll just have to narrow that down. Against control, the first thing that I'm thinking is we're going to lose temporary lockdown because all our stuff gets hit. So that's something to think about. And then I guess against like ramp, reanimate, big strategies, we're going to try to go under them and kill their stuff, right? I mean, the plan is to just win before they pop off. But the big thing we got to watch out for is temporary lockdown or those little types of wipes. Temporary lockdown being the main one. So I think we are going to want to destroy enchantments, right? Enchant. I love Requisition Raid because this also is a payoff because it gives all our creatures +1/+1. So that would be interesting. That's interesting. I don't think this goes in this deck. All right. If we were playing rares, we'd consider Get Lost. All right, so we're considering, and again, we're just building up cards. We're going to narrow this down. Things that kill enchantments that are reasonable. Another thing that I really like against control and those types of things or with wipes is haste. The reason being, I mean, this already gives haste, but after they wipe, you can kind of win an instant speed. They won't have mana up, and it really messes up or helps against control. And a lot of those strategies just win for that final damage. Cutting Coyote's not a human, but it's pretty great because you can play a 1-drop and give it +1/+1 in haste the same turn that you play this. So you swing in for a ton of value. This is interesting. I'm going to look at that. It's also a human. Okay. So we have kind of, I think, the world that we're going to work with. Onto lands, you want 22 to 24. If you're playing a ton of one drops low to the ground, you could probably do 18 to 20 lands. But in a normal deck, 22 to 24, 24 is you have a couple four drops, right? 23 is if you have a good amount of three drops. Here, I think we're going to do 23 because we really, look, this is a two drop and this one is the only one. So we're going to do 22 lands. I do play rare lands, even in budget decks. We're already doing budget decks and people have rare lands. If you don't, there's plenty of common, uncommon dual lands, including like a 13 life land these days. Or just play basics and you're just a little less consistent. But mana base should be considered separately. And if you don't understand why, it is what it is. I'll tell you some other time. Let's see. 8 plus 10, 18, 24. So you always want in a two color deck, you need at least 12 sources of each color. 13 is probably even better. So we are going to go like that for 22 lands. To start, obviously we'll test to see if that ends up being right. Now it's time to narrow down. Like I said, we're going to play a version of this on my next video. Obviously, you know, I'll be testing it in between then, so it might not look exactly when we narrow down, but we just want to kind of narrow it down to, based on our rules, what we think will be a reasonable starting point to start testing. Now, based on the rules, we're going to want 8 instant speed removal at least, or 6 instant speed and 4 sorcery. I think Sheltered for Ghost is too good, so I think we're going to go the 6 instant speed, 4 sorcery route. I don't like Elsmiths that much because we're aggro and we have to wait for an attacker or blocker. I want to just kill things so we can get in. Do we want 4 shock and 2 torch, or 4 torch and 2 shock? I think we're going to go like this, even though torch is better against mono red. I like the face damage since we're aggro, so we can finish them off to the face. So then our removal is, and we're not going to use Destroy Evil. I also don't think the case, I'm just not a big fan of it right now. So in terms of removal, we got 6 instant speed, 4 sorcery, or that's not right, 4 sorcery. And this one has lifelink. I think that'll be enough to start. Now, on to 10 to 12 payoffs. Payoff, 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 that's 12. This is kind of in between a payoff because it buffs our creatures. This is interesting because it kind of helps against temporary lockdown, but it's also a payoff because it buffs all our creatures. This is not a creature itself, so it doesn't synergize perfectly. Obviously, this is just kind of guesswork at this point. So now we've got 8, 10, and these are kind of payoffs too. I think we're going to go like this for now, and we are going to go, yeah, I think we're going to go like that for now. So now 8 payoffs, 9, kind of 11 with this, and these are pseudo payoffs. So we're in the 8 to, or 10 to 12 range, right? When we start considering that. Now to figure out kind of what triggers we want, we understand these pay us off for having low to the ground creatures. The first thing I really liked was 2/1s. So we're not going to cut the 2/1s. I don't think we have enough enchantments for this guy. So let's take him out. I don't think this one, I think I don't think this one's going to be it. We do want probably 3 ways to kill an enchantment. There's a lot of enchantments are temporary lockdown these ways. This one's interesting, but it can kind of mess up our mana. I don't think it fully goes with what we're doing. Interesting. So you can see we're down to 63. Now, we might throw some of these back in when we're testing. You can see the thought process. I'm not sure this one's perfect. So we got ways to kill temporary lockdown, buffer creatures, payoff, 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 kind of payoff, removal and removal. We've got triggers. And I mean, this is looking pretty solid. You get the strategy. We're going to play a bunch of 2/1s. We're going to kill their stuff. And then we're going to smash partly at haste speed, and everything's going to get bigger. So yeah, let's see what happens. Obviously, there's a 50-50 chance at least that this deck won't ultimately work, or we're going to have to change it a lot or have a new concept. But Testing is the only way to see, and this will get you a lot of gold, even though, you do get decks that just don't work in concept. You'll get better at figuring out concepts that actually are standard playable, and we're going to play this next time. We'll see how it goes. I hope you learned something. Like and subscribe. Let's go.